Hey guys, I'll do a well. Now before I start, this is my ions, my AP. I'm like doing 81 with the AP buff, but I'm not buffing much. But yeah, do 1 hour heal, and yeah, let's see what the results are. Now, um, by all means, take the video with a grain of salt. I am grinding like slowly, so um, if I don't like get as much as you, um, by all means, uh, you grinding maybe different from me, but should be the same. Should be. Now I'm gonna be watching some YouTube because it is kind of sleepy over here. But yeah, what all? It, I'll see you guys at the end of the video. Bye bye.
Barrel likes to sleep on the floor, but can't get the thought out of his head. Did the Willow somehow do this? He delves into some internet research, finding people debating back and forth about the Willow being real or not. Most maintain it's just a collectible, but a few mention wishes of their own, like someone's ugly mom that is beautiful now. After reading this, Bear is confident, letting out a chuckle. It can't be real. He comes back to Nikki wide awake, again in shadow. She requests that he lay with her, and Bear is a bit unsure but does so anyway. He wakes in the morning, finding he's alone in bed. At first it looks like this whole scenario might actually be a good thing, seeing breakfast from Nikki waiting for him at the table. However, the gesture is quickly soured when he finds a weird vigil for Sandy along with her body on display, which means she must have dug up the poor cat out of the trash. Bear is horrified, and Nikki doesn't understand. It was supposed to be a good thing. It's not, he makes abundantly clear. It's messed up. Our first real indicator of something darker at play here. The pair come to work at Cassell's Music together, and it's not as bustling as Nikki mentioned. It's pretty much dead. Kind of funny, this is the same location used way back in Wayne's World. You kids probably don't even know what the fuck that is. Bear takes Ian in the back and relays about the crazy night he had. Ian assumes that they fornicated, but they did not. She did sleep over, he admits. Nikki stares on from behind him at the register and gives him a big, frozen smile. He believes that she must be going through something, bringing up her dad's diagnosis. Ian is confused. The dad that she hates that lives in Washington? It still hurts, he assumes, and she must be going through some kind of mental breakdown. He describes how she would act crazy and then suddenly snap back to normal, deeming it terrifying. She wanted to sleep and cuddle with him, and Ian hopes that he did it. That alone would be crossing a line, and of course he did. Ian is bowled over. Did he even tell her about his feelings? Nope. After work, Bear just assumes that she wants a ride, but she grabs her purse, hopping in with Ian. Almost like last night was just a strange, momentary anomaly. Ian has a chat with Nikki and relays that it all boiled down to her being on Molly. She's fine otherwise, according to him. Then there's a knock at the door, and it's who else? Nikki. There's only 4 characters in the whole movie. She's hidden in shadows and tells him sorry for last night. She was wasted and on drugs. If things were weird, that explains why. She broaches a touchy subject. She's not saying he took advantage of her. Bear is all, what? He didn't even know she was on drugs. Yeah, she agrees. She's not saying he took advantage of her. Nikki lays everything out plainly. She knows that he likes her. No, he stumbles. Then asks, do you like me? What if I do? She teases. And when asked to elaborate, she says that it all started around Christmas. And last night, she really saw what they could have. She asks again, do you have feelings for me? Yeah, I do, he finally divulges. For fuck's sakes, took long enough, golly. With their feelings clear, they launch right into a romantic relationship, and it seems happy and normal enough, although the others around them appear suspicious and can feel that something is definitely off here. While at dinner, Nikki asks what he wants to do with his life, realizing she's never asked. Again, were they even friends at all in the first place? He has had people tell him he's quite private, including Nikki herself. Bear mulls it over. Maybe he'd be a food critic or something. She asks him them to review the bread, and it's quite underwhelming. Stale, but the butter helps. That'll be $100. Profound, she laughs. Ian keeps calling, and Bear excuses himself to answer. He informs him that he looked into Nikki's dad, and he's totally fine. Been going to work every day, and the hospital had no idea what he was talking about. Ian has another tidbit to drop, as according to Sarah, she and Nikki talked about him on his day off, which we saw at the beginning. She said that Nikki thinks of him like a little brother, officially friend-zoning him. Well, there you go. But as they point out, Sarah could have made that up due to jealousy. Ian continues, whatever is going on is definitely strange. Nikki straight up turned into another person, suddenly infatuated with him. We then see her oddly walk by behind him in a staccato fashion. He rejoins her at the table, asking if everything's okay. He starts to say something, but stops himself, shrugging off his reservations. She has a present for him, presenting a jewelry box. It's a tiger's eye rock that belonged to her mother, then was hers. It's supposed to bring you confidence and willpower. Now you can be a food critic, she smiles. Why give it to him? And it's because she loves him so much. She can't live without him. Bear phrases the next question specifically. Do you love me more than anyone in the world? She thinks it over. Yes, more than anyone, she confirms. What about her dad? Does he really have cancer? She gets very stern and reveals it's not true. She starts kind of freaking out, weirdly laughing, no, no, no. She stands up getting more animated. Don't do that, she cries. I thought we were having a nice date. She starts really freaking out and bawling. Bear attempts to calm her down and she stares dead-eyed again. Then why even bring it up? Does her fib even matter? Guess it doesn't. Bear agreeing it doesn't matter to him. Up to this point, we could forgive Bear's actions as he didn't really quite understand what was going on here. But this scene specifically proves that she is indeed under the spell of his wish. And so in a way, this isn't really Nikki. That's why when we jump into them having sex, this time it's very different than before. He knows now what he's doing. After he looks a little conflicted, but not that much. I've shockingly seen people debating whether Bear is a good dude or not, but from this point on, he is essentially irredeemable. He wakes up later that night alone in bed. He peers around the room, noticing Nikki slinking in the corner. She steps out, walking in a weird backwards motion. He's confused. What are you doing? Watching you sleep, she replies. You're so cute when you sleep. And she's wearing a sweater too because it smells like him. He asked her to come back to bed and she weirdly retreats back into the corner. She begins crying, I don't like my dreams, and it turns to full-on bawling. She complains that he doesn't love her as much as she does him. He reassures her he does. Just come back to bed. She continues sobbing and orders him to get back to sleep. Bear rolls over and she shrieks, why don't you love me? He looks for her and she's vanished. She sneaks back in with a flower vase covering her face, walking over to the side of the bed. What are you doing? He asked. What do you want me to do? Nikki replies. She's suddenly normal again, casually saying the flowers are for Sandy, and hops in bed like nothing happened. Bear attempts to leave the bed, and she shouts for him to stay! In the morning, he checks the mirror, and his hair is kinda uneven. He attempts to play everything cool, wishing Nikki a good morning. He inquires if she cut his hair, and she did indeed. He gently requests to not do that, and Nikki appears hurt. He brings up last night, and she feels bad for acting strangely. She's so sorry. Nikki attempts to act normal and happy for him, showing off a big toothy grin. She keeps holding it, and yeah, that's pretty creepy too. Not really convincing me there. He tries to discuss things further, and she shuts him up with a kiss, and Bear's concerns are washed away. He wants her to promise to cut it out with all the weird stuff. She super promises that it won't happen again. Bear is off to work, and Nikki is already missing him. She can pop by if he wants. He finds the door completely covered in duct tape, and Nikki suggests that he can just stay home if it's too much trouble. I got it, he grumbles, and finally gets the tape loose. Bye, Bear, she tells him, frozen in place with a smile. As he leaves, it's like she shuts down like a robot or something, and she doesn't even move a muscle when she pees her pants. Bear sits down for lunch and opens his box, finding some Polaroids, and there's a note on his sandwich for my little food critic. Sarah barges up, asking, what the fuck is that? An inside joke, he defends. He brings up what Ian said about Nikki friend-zoning him. She defends that they talked about it like once. It's just weird how they are super dating so suddenly. She doesn't care about whatever game Nikki is playing. She just doesn't want him to get hurt. And if Ian is gonna spread shit, she starts, but gets interrupted by her dad. It's another art school rejection letter, and she's only got one application left left to go. She laments, "That's what I get for messing around in high school." Mirroring earlier with Nikki, Sarah lays her head on his shoulder, and after a few moments, he does the same. They share some friendly banter, and you're going, "Bear, you fool! Sarah is right in front of you. Why waste your time on freaky Nikki at all in the first place?" You don't know why. Sarah backs away, finding a sandwich to have an odd smell. She grabs the note, cackling at it, and then reads the reverse. What's the verdict on cat? She shows it to Bear, and he horrifyingly realizes what the mystery meat he's been eating is. His poor Sandy. He heaves up into a trash can, again dismissing it all as an inside joke. Another working day in the can. Ian needs a ride this time. It also gives him a chance to talk about what is going on with him and Nikki. At first, Bear came to him worried about her having a breakdown, but now it's like, no, we're in love. There's some kind of party at Ian's tonight, and Bear is disappointed they weren't invited. He refused because he truly thinks Nikki is struggling, and Bear is taking advantage of the situation. He says it's with love, but it's definitely a bad look. Bear sneers, "That's unfair. She's the one that won't leave him alone," conveniently leaving out why. Ian agrees to invite him over. Just him. It'll be a boys' night. And if the relationship is normal and healthy, there would be no problem with him coming along. Bear psychs himself up beforehand and practices what he's gonna say. "No, you can't cook the cat. And I'm going to hang out with Ian alone." He notices the box still in the back seat and finds a contact number on the back. He rings it, and surprisingly, a guy answers. Bear asks if he can alter his wish, but they don't really do that. Is it even real? And the voice confirms it is. He has to ask, is her love for him real? Well, just because he chose this for her doesn't make it any less real. In that case, he wants to cancel the wish, but they don't do that either. There's really nothing that he can do to cancel it, and the wish will remain active as long as he is alive. "Do you want to talk with her?" they ask. The line is overtaken by horrified screaming, the voice confirming that's Nikki. Bear hangs up, clearly unnerved. Well, that was weird. We've seen several moments of what you might call real Nikki bubbling back up to the surface, and now I understand she is definitely still somewhere in there, but in the backseat in a kind of sunken place-esque scenario, and wants to deal with a guy on the phone. It seems like a normal enough phone call until he reveals the screaming Nikki there. How would any of that work anyway? It makes me think the voice must be responsible or connected to the magic behind the wishes. Nothing else really makes sense there, but we don't really find out much about all that. Bear enters the darkened house, finding Nikki in the exact same spot, frozen from hours earlier. She sort of activates as Bear enters, crying that she had a seizure or a stomach bug or something. He suggests she go take a shower, and he still attempts to air his grievances through the door. She promised, no more crazy stuff. You can't go cooking the cat, you know. She cheerily tells him, "Okay, honey," in response. Then he brings up it's boys' night, and the shower abruptly cuts off. Nikki offers to get ready and come along, but he reminds her it's boys only. There's some loud clattering heard, and Nikki lets out a guttural yowl. She laughs, "That's so weird, because Sarah told me she's going." She keeps pressing and getting more emotional until Bear feels he has no choice but to let her tag along. They come to the party, and Ian is annoyed. He just knew he'd bring Nikki. He can't be without her for 3 measly hours. Bear deflects that Sarah did invite her, and Ian pleads with him, no weird shit. Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. The group play a game of Truth or Dare Jenga, and the first one is simple enough. A kid getting Ian to drink. Another kid grabs a tile, telling him to switch seats with anyone. And of course, he goes for Bear's seat. And even being that far away from Bear bums her out. Then it's Nikki's turn. We don't know what's written on the block, but she promptly stands up and gets out her phone. She launches into some complete insanity she's written about Hansel and Gretel being lovers, a love that could only be conjured by the branch of a willow tree. She finishes the story, and the group is silent, absolutely stunned by what they just witnessed. She brushes it off, saying, "That's from a new book she's writing." Thanks to that one kid moving, it's now technically Bear's turn. He happens to get the absolute worst dare possible for the situation. Kiss the person to your left, and it's Sarah. Whoa. Nikki doesn't like that, flying to her feet and does a massive pouty face, her lip quivering. Still frowning, she drags Sarah's chair out of the way. She leans in for a smooch, and Bear gives her a little peck, Nikki letting out a satisfied sigh. She spills that no one can comprehend what it feels like to love someone as much as she loves him. She grows louder, proclaiming everyone will die, never feeling the strength of their connection. Ian finally pipes up, simply asking Nikki if she's okay. She first tries to laugh it off as a joke, but no, she's not. Deal with it. She flips again. "It's me," she shouts, and takes a bottle, smashing it into her face. Everyone screams to get her help, and Nikki apologizes, her face bloodied. And Bear just sits there silent, really getting in over his head at this point. He does at least eventually take her to the hospital, but it looks like she refused to be treated. Can't force her, I guess. All this is finally starting to get to Bear, appearing all sullen. He gets up to use the restroom, and Nikki is agitated, asking to stand outside the door. He unloads. Why is she acting like this, scaring everyone and getting herself injured? She knows that Sarah likes him, which doesn't excuse her behavior, obviously. Bear rants he just wants everything to be good and normal. She tells him she loves him all the time, but does she actually like him? Is Nikki happy? Yeah, she smiles. I'm your freaky Nikki. This once more proves this isn't the real Nikki, as we saw how offended she was by the nickname prior. Bear requests that they take some time apart, just like any normal couple would do, which causes Nikki to break down in tears. She wants to know what she should do, and he spits back to just be Nikki. She offers that she can be anything he wants her to be. He too finally recognizes that's something the real Nikki would not say. I can be Nikki, she shouts, and gives another trembling apology. Bear finally realizes this isn't actually real. She declares that she loves him in every reality, and he chokes out an I love you too. Instantly making it weird again, Nikki is back to her odd movements, disappearing into the shadows. She urges him not to be scared. I'd never hurt you. She scarily lunges forward, scaring Bear and scaring everybody. He's had enough saying he's going to stay at Ian's for the night. In that case, she calmly tells him that's okay and goes into a long, detailed description of her ending it all if he leaves. Or you could just stay, she shrugs. Well, when you put it that way. Later in bed, Bear's phone starts going off and it's Sarah, really trying to get a hold of him. He attempts to blow her off, but she threatens to come to the house if he doesn't come to meet her nearby. Bear tiptoes out of bed and Nikki rouses awake. Bear, she moans. Kill me, please. She says she's sleeping. It's me. The actual Nikki has somehow gotten through. You are you, Bear states definitively. She shushes him. Please don't wake her up. Just kill me, she requests. He gets so defensive. What's so bad about being with him? I have never been with you, she clarifies, again asking to take her out. Bear sheepishly backs out of the room as she continues crying, please, please, please. He finds Sarah sitting in her car, and she too asks the question, what the fuck is up with Nikki? Bear remains stubborn, blaming her dad's cancer. Now he's lying to cover up all this madness. Sarah has the opposing view to Ian earlier, and from her perspective, Nikki is taking advantage of him. She reveals that her last shot school letter came in the mail and wants to open it together. Sarah has another bombshell, which in retrospect, she's actually tried telling him a few times. His boy Ian and Nikki have been hooking up on and off for a few years. It's casual though, and not romantic. And Ian believes Bear is dating Nikki to get back at him. Wow, we really don't get much insight into the group's dynamic, especially before the wish, but this really paints Ian in a bad light. Even that he was quote unquote helping him at the beginning and everything, he's been sleeping with his crush the whole time and never told him. They are all really, really bad friends. Then of course there's sweet Sarah. She thinks that Bear needs someone more chill. Oh, like you? Well, she was sitting next to him at the party. He was supposed to kiss her. Bear, you really are a goddamn moron. He blows it in a way beyond comprehension when Nikki appears crashing through the window and grabs Sarah's head, brutally bashing it into a brick on the steering wheel. Whoa, well that was unexpected. Actually, it was completely expected, but still, dang. As usual, Bear does nothing, just sits there cowering in the corner. Could have at least tried to help. I mean, Nikki is tiny, just toss that bitch aside. But this is Bear we're talking about here, the biggest coward of all time. And as Nikki points out, this is kind of his fault. He did want this after all. She assures him they can fix this. They grab her body wrapped in sheets and take it to her dad's store for some reason. He of course willingly goes along with the entire plan. Too late to turn back now, I suppose. Nikki sends him away while she finishes cleaning up, giving Bear a brief moment alone. He's got Sarah's still unopened letter, now stained in blood. Of course she was accepted, sending Bear into a rage of emotions. Yep, she was the only one of you clowns that was actually trying to do something with her life, and now she's dead. Desperate and still covered in gore, Bear returns to the witchy store. It's a different dude manning the counter now, and he doesn't appreciate Bear's aggressive attitude. He sees about the dangers of the Willow. How could you sell these things? He points out there's warnings all over the box, man, devolving into a back and forth, fuck you, no fuck you. Bear catches his reflection and breaks down apologetic. The clerk is curious about his wish and appears relieved. Oh, that's not so bad. Bear wants to reverse it, and he knows that's not possible. He could do a new wish to contradict the previous one, but again, each person only gets one wish, and the clerk dude used his already. Wonder what he wished for. He seems fine, you know. Bear buys another willow and tries to make another wish anyway. I wish Nikki only loved me as a friend, you please, but there's no doing. The branch refuses to break. Again, you only get one, buddy, them's the rules. Well, his old buddy, Ian, hasn't made a wish yet, making that his next stop. He does his best to explain about the wish, and he needs to make one to cancel out his first one. Ian doesn't believe this insane story and jokingly makes a wish for $1 billion, snapping the branch. Money begins raining down from up above in massive amounts. $1 billion, baby. Smart wish, actually. Bear falls to his knees and knows he's screwed because he only knows 3 people on the entire planet. I mean, it's not that hard. Go back to the bar and give that homeless dude $50 to make a wish. You think he gives a shit? Boom, problem solved, easy peasy. Defeated, Bear returns home, and Nikki stalks out all weird. She puts together another vigil, this time featuring Sarah's naked corpse. Wow, thanks honey, that's exactly what I wanted. The point is, Nikki is taking further control, and now has reached alarming levels. You like me better now, Nikki asks, taking a drag on a cigarette. She growls, why don't you love me? And takes the brick to her mug. Ian appears at the door, stoked about his money. It's real after all. Out of nowhere, Nikki shoots him right in the noggin, putting him down, and making all that cash disappear. Dang! At first I was like, where the heck did she get that gun? Then I remembered there's an offhand comment way at the beginning about Carter keeping one in his safe at the store. Nikki is still acting cray, and Bear manages to get the gun away from her. She whimpers, we're gonna make this work. She's gonna be pretty again. The most beautiful girl in the world. What? Bear flees to the restroom, locking the door. Nikki will not give him a break, and tells relentlessly, demanding that he let Bear ways what must be done. He finds that rock from me. Let's see if it actually gives him confidence and willpower. He definitely needs some help in those
I don't even need that.
Maybe they do need some time apart.
Oh my god.
He can't pull the trigger. Hopefully there's tons of his grandma's meds left, and he downs a shitload. Still, he wieners out and goes to force himself to vomit up the pills. Before he successfully can, we hear a branch snap outside. Bear's demeanor instantly changes, and he loses focus on what he was doing. He enters the living room, both of them now all gone goo-goo-eyed. They share a passionate kiss, and things quickly take a turn. Bear's breath starts to tremble, seeing a broken branch on the table, knowing Nikki made a wish, presumably something along the lines of what he did initially. That proves to be his downfall, as he starts foaming at the mouth. Nikki grabs a gun, ready to join him, but Bear passes, and she finds herself back. The real Nikki, that is. She starts whimpering for a whole new reason, pushing Bear's body away. What did you do? She cries, and things end on this tragic note. Bear certainly deserved to have a comeuppance for his repeated stupidity and cowardice, but it really sucks for everyone else. Sarah and Ian are both dead, which is definitely not ideal. In the end, really the biggest victim is Nikki herself. Bear basically put her through hell, all thanks to his dumbass wish. Sure, she does come back to herself at the end, but what comes next? In any realistic scenario, Nikki is going to take the fall for everything. At the very least, Sarah's death. I mean, her body is literally sitting in the house, she's got her fingerprints on the brick. The others have seen her all acting strangely at the party. Basically, her life is completely destroyed. There's no other outcome here, which just sucks. She can't even get a wish to fix things because she already wasted the one she got on stupid ass Bear. This was all just me speculating, but Curry Barker has confirmed that Nikki does get arrested after the events of the film. So yeah, thanks for confirming that. Things are quite tied up when it comes to Bear and Nikki's story, but there are a ton of directions they could go in a continuation. Come on, this movie made nearly $500 million. This is gonna turn into a franchise whether you like it or not. This is Blumhouse we're talking about, for Christ's sakes. The question is, how do you extend the universe in an interesting way
I'm literally just like boning my
unresolved details that could work, like the other Willows at the witchy store. When Bear first goes, there's a full box or two, but later there's only a few left. This means a ton of them sold in a relatively brief period, all within this close proximity, and all from this store specifically. Who knows how many in total are actually out there? Maybe we could see a story following someone during the same time frame of the first film, and maybe even kind of cross over in a way. What really would be key to making a sequel interesting is making the wish something completely different, as the Willow isn't inherently cursed like a monkey's paw. Something like The Lady That Got Hot or Ian's $1 billion might be good examples. The wish itself isn't the problem, but rather it's the fallout of what happens because of the wish. This could lead to countless possibilities and would help make things unique, at least for a bit. I also would like to find out more about the company behind the Willows. Not too much though, you know, not like a Silver Shamrock kind of thing, evil corporation or something along those lines. That is way too goofy. But still, even how many of these things are out there and how this company found the Willow in the first place, I would like to see explored further. Tabby Cat Curiosities, just what are you up to? That'll do it for this Eating Explained for Obsession. But don't forget, before we go, you can send me requests for anything you'd like to see me cover by sending them my way on my social medias or down in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Thanks for watching Found Flicks. See you next time.
Hi handsome, welcome to my 85th video. There is a misinformation problem in Black Desert Online. I know, breaking news, Fork found in kitchen. But you are being lied to about the Karazat and Ekleta accessory exchange. So let's talk about them. This video is a response, or rather a debunking of Choice's video that he put out yesterday. In that video, as his title would suggest, he recommends players to convert their Nov Karazats into base Ekletas, the new accessory coming out with Edania Part 2, and then go grind the new Edania Part 2 zones that are also coming out. This would then allow you to get the new enhancement materials for these Ekletas yourself, which means that you would not be at the mercy of the center market, where these items are very unlikely to be found. According to Choice, doing this would save you around 700 billion silver in the long run. However, there is a catch. To grind a new zone, the game recommends 2090 total AP. You are not getting even remotely close to the number with base Ekletas, especially when Choice also has you grind this place with just Oct Sovereign weapons. Choice is telling you to do this while he has no information whatsoever about the new spot or important stats like drop rates for the new enhancement stones. His quote-unquote test to determine if you can grind a new zone below AP cap is going to Zephyros below AP cap for like 5 minutes, saying that it doesn't feel that bad, and then finishing the test like that. I am sure that I don't need to tell you that Zephyros is not the same spot as the new Agris zone, but just in case some of you don't see the issue with this would be like if I told you to go grind grass beetles, because grass beetles are 3 billion silver an hour, and as a proof of this, I showed myself grinding Tungrad ruins. But of course, that's not it. There are also several other flaws with this test. First, he only focuses on AP. He doesn't take into consideration other stats, like critical hit damage that he got from his all-out attack, or extra attack speed from his Shining Wellsheart, or even his DP that he gets from having Oct Edana armors. He also has no numbers whatsoever to support his claim. Not accounting for his DP also means not accounting for possible money lost from breaking crystals. So if a player with Nov Karazats who doesn't have that many Edana stones to enhance his armors goes to the new zone, it is very likely to just become a crystal graveyard, lowering the amount of silver saved, quote unquote, with every single shatter. He is also operating under the assumption that you will have every other best in slot item there is to get outside of the deck Karazats and the Nov weapons, which includes things like Gluttony and Sikraya crystals, as well as amplified Twisted Limestones, none of which are currently available on the center market, which means that you would also have to go to those zones associated with those crystals and grind those under AP cap as well. But the most important claim, and the claim that I will focus on in this video, does not actually come from the video itself, but rather from a comment that he made in the comment section under it. And that goes that grinding a spot way below AP cap is way more efficient than grinding any other spot that you could be grinding otherwise. If this claim is proven to be false, then this entire theory with the Nov Karazats breaks apart. It is therefore extremely imperative that this claim holds water and stands under scrutiny. So let's put that claim to the test. To do this, I will grind 3 spots that all mid-game players know and possibly even love: Elvia Hex, Tungrad Ruins and Orzekia. I will grind them with this crystal set, this lightstone set and these consumables on a succession tamer. I will then take the same class to Zephyros, Star's End, Sikraya Lower and the new Gavinia zone below AP cap to see the silver per hour there. All of these zones will be done in Marderam to avoid any miscounting and to have concrete evidence. I will grind for 30 minutes in every spot and then double the trash per hour and put it into Garmov. I would grind each spot for a bit longer, but I am being pressed by time because the sooner I make this video, the sooner you guys will see it and won't be sold lies. I'm also putting this into Garmov to avoid wild RNG swings and get as close to the average as humanly possible. With the methodology out of the way, let's get into this. I forgot to record footage for Hex and Tungrad, so I will just do it live like this from the Marley realm. So as you can see, I did roughly 30 minutes, got 16,500 trash. No, this is not Photoshop, as you can see, guys, okay, just in case someone thinks of that. So this would be roughly 33,000, okay, again, could have been a bit more if I wanted to be super exact, but we will run with what I got, so 33,000 trash. I got 2 of these Scalfion bosses, which means 1 buff, and I got 1 Hex Marie. As for Tungrad, of this, I got like 36,000 trash. I got 3 essences though, so maybe I'm just lucky, you know, guys. This is 6 essences an hour. Go here, you know. If I wanted to clickbait, I would do it like that. I know that there are people like Netherrax doing like 50k or whatever. This is my numbers. In Orzekia, we have a little bit over 8,000 trash in 30 minutes. This was exactly 2 of the big Akleta bosses, so around 16,000 trash an hour. This concludes the mid-game portion of the testing that I have done. Now for the end game portion of this video, I will be using choices on words. His calculation is that he's around 145 AP below the cap, so we're going to go 145 AP below the AP cap in Zephyros, which is 1865. I can get to 1869 with my AP buff, nice, so that's what we're going to do. I had to remove Vicious Shadows because he's not using Vicious Shadows. He's going to tell you to use a Twisted Lightstone set for the Edania damage. I am instead using Dekia artifacts that just has a DR, so that we get some of the DR missing from the Kabua's back, and otherwise you're only missing a little bit of AP against monsters, but again, I'm way above AP cap, so this doesn't really matter that much. As for the crystals, I also had to remove one Rebellious, replace the other one with the HP crystal, because it's pretty much the only one that I can use that doesn't have any sort of AP or bonus damage or anything like that. So I'm going to be maybe a bit more tanky, but I will be as close as I can be to Choice's numbers without removing things like Deep Sea Potions and whatnot. So with that out of the way, let's see how good this is actually going to be. Okay, for Zephyros, what you will notice first is that I actually did 40 minutes here. This is because I wanted to be as fair as possible. It took me roughly 20 minutes to get one AFK phase, which meant one of the big frogs. So I just did 20 minutes twice and then extrapolate from there, end up with around 12,000 trash an hour. Another thing I will say about Zephyros is that it did not feel that bad to grind there. You could definitely feel the mobs being a bit tanky, but what really was a problem was that I felt like I was gonna die at any time, and this will be a pattern that you will see me do over and over again. We will talk about it a little bit later down the line. Okay, so for Sikraya we need to be 145 AP below, so we are looking for 1790. I have very similar setup, still don't know Kabua's because again we are focusing on having as much AP at any cost whatsoever. I also had to remove all my Jin crystals and had to remove some other stuff, so it's pretty much the same. Once again, 1792, so slightly above where Choice would have you go, so let's see how we do here. Sikraya is actually a relatively decent spot to grind under AP cap. I did not feel like the AP cap was hindering me that much. Even in terms of dying or worrying about it like I was in Zephyros, I wasn't really doing that here. This really feels like a very chill spot. That being said, I still only got around 4.3, 4.4 thousand trash. This was with 2 of the green memories, so the lowest level you can have. And I believe I got 2 of the fires or towers, if you want to call them that give you the same buff as well. I don't know how lucky that is or isn't. Either way, around 8.7 thousand trash, and the biggest benefit that you don't really need that much DP here. Next up we have Star's End. You need 1950, which means 145 less than that is going to be 1805. With my ebuff I can get 1807. It is literally the same setup as I just had in Sikraya. So let's see, because I already have a bad feeling about this one. Now, there was a reason for me to have a bad feeling about Stars, and actually 2 reasons really. The first one is that at this AP I was barely able to actually pass through the DPS check. Something that Choice mentioned is that the DPS check in Zephyros is not that bad, but did you try grinding Stars End this low below AP cap? Because if I didn't have my Z buff, if I didn't have my Absorb, there was no chance, and even when I had those 2, there still were times when I would still be unable to kill the mobs on the ground before they got up. I know I could have maybe got even more down attack damage. I did have it in the add-ons. I did have the Reforged Stone for it. Even then it's not really that great. One more thing I want to say here. I got 2 Apostles. This number is inflated as hell. I did check for Garmov. Garmov shows around 1 Apostle an hour. If I were to extrapolate this, this would be 4 Apostles an hour, which you're definitely not getting. So I am actually removing around 500 trash from this half an hour just to make it a little bit more closer to reality. Still a really terrible experience, because the one thing I didn't talk about just yet is how tight the actual surviving of this spot was. Every single pull, every single peg, I was fearing for my life, and it was even worse once you realize that I cannot actually kill the mobs on the ground. So once they got up, it was even more difficult and even more stress. I can barely say that this spot is grindable, especially if you're like really below AP cap like I was here, and if you don't have the DP like I do, because at that point you're just blowing up crystals for fun. Last on this list is the new zone, the Gavinia Coastal Cliff, also dubbed Solons. This has an AP cap of 2020, which means you need 1875 total AP if you want to be at the same deficit as Choice was. So this means I am at 1876, so 1 AP above, and I got my crystals kind of back, almost all of them, and I got Kabuas back as well with Predations. I think that this is the one spot where you can make the argument for using all-out attack. However, as you can see from this number, my DP is not really that high. I understand that the way that I'm getting my DP is not a regular player's DP, but at the same time, I don't think that they're going to have that much more DP than me because of the time gates on the Dania armors. However, let's get straight into the testing. And yeah, I was right to be worried here. I was right to not go with all-out attack, because you will notice that this martyrdom is only 15 minutes long, and that is for a very good reason. I ended up dying by the 15-minute mark, and I didn't really bother to do another 30 minutes because I think that this is conclusive enough. This spot is borderline impossible to grind, and the biggest problem is a very similar problem to Star's End, and that is the actual DPS check. Halfway through the phase of the golem, he will do the slam into the ground, similar to how he does in regular Olens. However, here it is an even tighter DPS check, and I was not for the life of me able to break the arm, which meant that the golem heals up. And after that, you have like 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes, when you are just completely grinding this golem down. He doesn't drop trash, he doesn't summon more mobs, he is just there being a damage sponge. This was an awful experience, combined with me dying. Thankfully, I did not lose crystals, so that's great, but even then, this is impossible, which really makes this idea of grinding the new spot that much worse in my opinion. Alright, before I show you the conclusion of the findings, one last thing. People watching this might say that these numbers are not fair because I'm comparing different spots with different items, and once the prices of these items change, so will their perceived efficiency. Which means that I had to look for one more spot. A spot with a similar enough loot table to Zephyros that you can also grind at 1865 total AP. That's right, Orbita. The reason I'm including it last here is because it's the one spot I had to grind a bit differently. Unlike most of the zones here, they are roughly the same regardless of how long you grind it, and you can extrapolate quite easily. And unlike Zephyros and Orzekia, where the cycle is either 20 or 15 minutes, so it's also quite easy to go into a full hour even from 1 or 2 cycle, Orbita's cycle is 12 minutes long, so I had to grind it for the full hour. Here are the numbers for it. It's 5 bosses and a few ticks from the AFK phase. You might be wondering why I didn't go to DSR. This is simply because the trash loot is tied to RNG, so any result will be extremely inconclusive because you can get wildly different results. It's like the problem with Star's End, just much worse, I think. I also didn't go to Tenebrum since it's close enough to Zephyros and AP cap is a bit higher than the 1865 that we were allowed. Maybe in a future video we can look into what the threshold might actually be for each zone. Not today. Alright, with the final surprise and housekeeping out of the way, let's finally reveal the results. Here it is. As you can see, it is in fact not more efficient to grind a spot 145 AP below the AP cap instead of grinding a spot that you could just overcap anyway, at least most of the time. As you can see, Hex Sanctuary is by far the #1 spot at around 1865 total AP. As for the other zones, we have Sikraya. I will say that I don't like items like these pigments that have like 1 every 170 hours drop rate. Even if you're here for like 100-150 hours, you might never see this item. So all this does really is inflate the average silver per hour. Keep that in mind, this would be like 110 million silver less than it actually is. I really don't like this approach to averages. I understand why it's happening, because you are likely to grind a spot for a very long time. However, when the drop rate is this tiny, when there are treasure items more likely to be dropped, then I really don't like it. at least not personally, but I am including it here for now. I'll show you what the numbers would look like without them later. And with Zephyros, I did not put the Herald's crystals at nothing, because maybe in the future we'll be able to sell them. And also the idea is that the new spot will not really have items that you cannot sell, at least for the time being. Overall, as you can once again see, Hex is better than any other endgame spot by at the very least like 160 million silver an hour, and if you remove Sikraya, which I do think is the exception to the rule, then we are looking at the differences of 500 million silver, if not more. Oh, and I forgot, the Gavinia cliff is down here. Yeah, it's absolute dog shit. Just don't do this. If you don't have the AP for this, if you don't have the DP for this, this is very unlikely to be good for you. You have seen me die, so you are unlikely to do well here. And really, this is a problem because this is the latest spot. You might even say that the new spots in the Dania Part 2 will be very similar to this one. One more thing, you see 320% drop rate. This was the drop rate that I was using the entire time. If we go down to like 250, you can see that it does shrink the difference here a little bit, but everything else is pretty much the same. I did not test this for Agris. I don't think personally that Agris is that good of an argument, because with current usage of Agris, you can use Agris like every day, maybe 1 hour, maybe like every 2 days, 1 hour. It's really not that great. If you want to go outside of Marine Realm, so you go maybe like 370, it's still going to stay the same. In fact, I think that the differences are even larger now, especially between Hex and everything else. Also, one more thing that I was thinking about is maybe Choice is doing this because he's from NA, right? I am EU. So if we go to NA, you can see that Tungrad actually drops and Orbita also drops below Zephyros and Star's End, but the rest is staying pretty much the same. So I don't even think that this is going to be different on NA. You really don't seem to be grinding that much more efficiently if you're going like 140 AP below AP cap to a spot. And as I have promised, these are the numbers when you remove all the extremely rare items like the pigments in Sikraya and all the other endgame zones. I have also removed the Blessed Soul Fragment from Hex because just similarly high drop rates. I have never seen this drop in my life. In Orbita and therefore in Zephyros as well, I have removed the Silent and the Distorted Crystal. I did not remove anything that was below 100 hours for one item. For Stars, and I also removed the Origin of Corruption. That's pretty much it. And as you can see, nothing has really changed that much. Yes, Zephyros and Stars and the endgame zones did drop down a little bit, but so did the rest. Now, if you are wondering where in here is Gavinia Cliff, it's all the way down here, making 2 bill an hour. If it is worth it to you to grind a spot this far below AP cap, just so you can make 2 bill an hour while also risking crystals because you're severely below the DP cap, and therefore you can end up making negative silver per hour. Once you cannot do the DPS check for the phase, you will just reset the boss. It's, like I said multiple times so far, a really bad spot for people who are below the AP cap. If that is worth it to you just to get those new items very inefficiently, then be my guest. I will not stop you. However, to call this efficient is just a flat out lie. Alright, but let's look a little bit deeper below the numbers and try to understand them a bit more in detail. First of all, you might be wondering how efficient grinding this low below the AP cap really is. Well, if we compare the numbers I got to the Garb of average, we can see that I was about 70 to 78% as efficient, where you can see a clear difference between the zones that have a tight DPS checks and the ones that don't. Now, I can already hear people saying that Garb of average is not real and that they get way better numbers. So here I also got a table using Netherrax's numbers from his videos. I did actually tone them down by around 1000 trash per zone, so that these are not applicable to like 5 people in the entire world. Ideally, I would use my own grind numbers with full efficiency to compare myself to myself, but I'm already running quite a lot behind schedule with this video, so Netherrax will have to do. Here, you can see that I'm currently sitting at around 50% efficiency for Gavinia, something that will get much worse once endgame players get their Ecletas, and around 60 to 67% for everything else. Zephyros is the best here because it is a tower spot, so there's less for people to min-max there. The other thing that people often do not consider is that grinding a spot above the AP cap is also way more efficient than you think. People often act as if the 5% AP cap might as well be a 0% AP cap and you are stuck doing the same numbers no matter your AP. But this is not the case, because not only do you still get some extra AP from having more than is necessary, you also have access to way more special damage and way more ways to min-max the zone. As you can see, I got around 120% of the Garmok average when grinding most of these mid-game zones and around 145% efficiency when grinding Elvia Hex. You could once again look at Netherrax for how far you can really take these numbers, but I just wanted to showcase that even a somewhat above average player like me, playing not a very strong class, can still do quite well. The next thing that we need to talk about is the opportunity cost. I'm sure most of you know what it is, but in case you don't, this is a concept from economics to show that when you have multiple choices, picking one prohibits you from doing the other. In BDO terms, grinding the new zone means that you cannot grind any other zone for that duration. If we take an example from the numbers that we have, if the new spots provide as much silver as Gavinia, but you could be grinding Elvia Hex, your opportunity cost is the difference between the silver per hour of the two spots. So in this case, between 800 million and 1.1 billion silver every single hour. We obviously don't know how much money you will be making in the new zone, so we will have to compare Hex to both Sikraya and Gavinia to have our best and worst case scenario when it comes to predicting this. Now that we have our hourly costs, we also need to know how long you are expected to be in the new zone. Enhancing a Kleta requires combining 5 of these Twilight items of the same type for a single stone. You need around 3 to 4 stones per level from base to Tet, which translates to around 15 to 20 Twilights per level for a total of 70 Twilights on average. So far so good. However, here is where opinions split. Again, we don't know the drop rate of these items. Choice suggests as much as 2 Twilights per hour. I think the more conservative guess is 1 per hour, and the Doompole scenario would be 1 Twilight every 2 hours. So we will run with all 3 options to get a scale. However, things are not as simple because they will split even further, because we also don't know how efficient you are going to be. We could be grinding as slowly as 50% of the base, meaning it will take us as much as double the hours to get the same results as everyone else, or we could grind at around 75% efficiency, which would require an extra 33% of time spent. It just splits these numbers way too many times. Thankfully for you, nothing that a little dose of the tism couldn't fix. So here are all the numbers for all the possible combinations. Man, I really hate that I have to do this just because people simply cannot wait for 6 days for the expansion to release. God damn. Alright, so that's the opportunity cost out of the way. Now for the differences between enhancing deck Karazats and base to dead Ekletas. According to slightly tuned Byroxite, to get real averages and not numbers stated by PTs, we need 97 billion silver for the new Ekletas and 220 billion silver for the deck Karazats on average, resulting in a 122 billion difference. All that is left to do now is to compare the difference to the opportunity cost, and there you go. I have color coded it for you, so red is bad, green is good, and this orange or whatever color it is can kinda go any way. And as you can see, you are more likely to be fine than not. I have not really calculated for the opportunity cost of using more expensive consumables like your envies and furniture, or even bypassing harmonies in lieu for the cheaper alternatives with the smaller potions. I made a video about this if you want. If you were to just use the envy instead of deep sea and the furniture on top of that, it would be around 5 to 10 billion silver in the entire grind, so it would not really be that much of a difference and would really affect the orange zones. I also did not include breaking crystals in here and the cost of replacing them, mostly because I simply can't be bothered to do this much work for a video that will be largely obsolete. The spot reset and softlocks essentially. So it does not matter how quickly Choice kills one Shadow Knight, because what matters is how quick your overall grind is. one light at the end of the tunnel is that I did actually manage to summon the frog when I was doing the 190 AP below AP cap. It was tight, I had only one of the covered energies left, so I'm sure that if I made any mistakes whatsoever, I would not have been able to do it, but I at least was able to do it even on a succession tamer. So Choice is telling you that you will be okay in the new zone that is confirmed to have a DPS check because he went to Zephyros, a zone that does not have a DPS check. 74,000 hours played, by the way. With that out of the way, let's move on to the final part of this video. Man, it's long, isn't it? Is there a way to make Choice's strat work? I think there is, but with several adjustments. First, you can only do this for your earrings. No other accessory will work. Maybe if you really want to, rings, but even then I would not recommend ever. You need deck Karazats in your neck, belt and rings to get as much AP as possible. Preferably, you would also get Nov Sovereign weapons, but I understand that this is a bit of a tall task for most people. One thing that Choice didn't talk about is the new Tachyon Legacy item, I think that's how you pronounce it. You get these from exploring the new expansion. I assume it's similar to the good old Dokkebi chest from the Morning Light or Edania chest in the first part of Edania. You can then take these Tachyon Legacy items and exchange them for up to 4 of the enhancement stones for both earrings and rings. Rings are kind of whatever, you might get lucky or not, no big deal either way. The earrings, on the other hand, you can use already on your bases to try your luck on getting them to pry. If it goes, you just got at least 9 AP. If not, you at least got less of these to grind. Keep in mind that going from Pry to Duo does not increase your AP at all, so prioritize 2 Pry earrings over are kind of whatever.
What the f... Well, I'm really gonna...
However, you might get lucky or not, no big deal either way. The earrings, on the other hand, you can use already on your bases to try your luck on getting them to pry. If it goes, you just got at least 9 AP. If not...
So you can extend this card back into a... The fuck? This thing, you cannot do this after you enhance it.
You at least got less of these to grind. Keep in mind that going from Pry to Duo does not increase your AP at all, so prioritize 2 Pry
Try.
earrings over anything else. As to how you get your deck Karazats, and you can use already on your bases to try your luck on getting them to Pry. If it goes, you just got at least 9 AP. If not, you at least got less of these to grind. Keep in mind that going from Pry to Duo does not increase your AP at all, so prioritize 2 Pry earrings over anything else. As to how you get your deck Karazats, another thing that often gets overlooked is the amount of hammers that we got. You get up to 20 of these from your white tab for getting a certain AP bracket, and we got another 8 in the login rewards, another 5 in the new Heidel Ball code, and 3 in Olvia Academy. And that's just the ones that we have available right now. Who knows how many appear in the future, in events and so on. Use these hammers instead of crowns when tapping deck Karazat. Deck Karazat has a relatively high chance of success and also a really low pity, especially when compared to deck Sovereigns, the item that people will usually recommend to use those hammers on instead. Now, think about this. You could have 30 pity attempts on your Nov Sovereign, or you could have a deck Karazat necklace, maybe even a belt on top. I mean, really think about it. The average cost of going from a Nov to deck Sovereign is 1.2 trillion silver. You could have almost every single deck Karazat for the same cost. Okay, I mean, how do I even wrap this video up? Originally, I was going to give Choice the benefit of the doubt. He's definitely not the only content creator who cuts corners to get their videos out as soon as possible. And really, I get it. Everyone does it, me included. The thing that changed my mind, however, and why I ultimately decided to make this video, was a comment that he responded to, where it seems that he is really serious about this. This indicates that Choice's video is not like a theory craft or a speculation, or even if you want to go this route then this is how you do it. No, he is outright telling people that if they don't do what he's telling them to do, they are making a mistake, and he's attaching this 600 or 700 billion silver like it was originally. I don't know why he changed the title, price tag to it, so that people say then they're like, oh my god, what am I doing wrong? It's lying to people, that's what it is. And I find his response quite funny in a way, so I thought that since this video was already quite educational, I think it's fitting that as a final lesson we are going to learn about a logical fallacy known as the appeal to authority. Quote, an appeal to authority is a logical fallacy that claims something is true simply because an expert, famous person, or a leader says it is true, without offering any real proof. End quote. Also, I just have to say it. Isn't it crazy that of all people, I am the one defending Karazat? Life truly works in mysterious ways. And yeah, that's all I have for today, handsome. What a roller coaster of a video, wasn't it? Tell me what spot you are going to be grinding 200 AP below the AP cap, or if you are going the deck Karazat route instead. I don't often promote this one, but I do stream almost every day on Twitch. Check me there to ask me a question or just yap. Also, Discord in the description, hopefully the link works this time. Remember to like and subscribe, and enjoy your grind.
27k. I mean, you know, not bad. It's still a bill.